Hi, I'm Bo Humphreys, and this is the Personal Finance Show. Today is July 26th, 2020. This is the year of the pandemic. It's episode 18 of my COVID-19 series where, I was taking a little break from podcasting. I'm like, I'm going to come back. I'll come back and I'll do shows again. I don't know when, but, whenever it feels right. And the pandemic kind of made it feel right a little bit sooner, I think. And that I made time, it's a Sunday morning right now. I do this show live basically now. There's a little bit of editing, but it's basically a live show because I don't have a lot of time anymore with a full-time job and an 18-month-old baby, and my wife's in medical school. There's a lot going on, and I don't have time to plan things and edit them and book people and build a programming schedule. So this is I'm really glad I started this though 18 weeks ago, and started talking to people around the world, and people with different experiences, people who are experiencing this pandemic in their own individual way, and hearing from them is what I want to share with everybody listening. So today I have Acquania Escarnet on the show. She is a podcaster. What's the name of your podcast?
The Purpose of Money Podcast.
The Purpose of Money Podcast. Love it. Love it. I'm really interested in focusing on podcasters lately because I realize on a podcast is a great place to promote another podcast and to talk about podcasting in general. You're obviously, if you're listening, you like podcasts, so maybe you want to listen to another one. And it takes time when you're starting a podcast to build an audience and for people to even know that you exist. And so, let's have some community. Let's focus on, helping each other out. Those of us who have been in this a little bit longer can sort of amplify others in this community. So this is good. And this just Acquania just happens to be in a personal finance podcast. Tell us, why did you pick personal finance?
So I've actually been in love with personal finance since I was in high school. I was 16, and my dad gave me my first personal finance book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He said, if I don't teach you anything, I want to empower you with financial literacy.
That's so good.
I read it. And once I read that book, I was so inspired to create generational wealth and to be financially independent at an early age that I opened my first retirement account.
Wow.
A Roth individual.
At 16?
Yeah, a Roth individual retirement account at 16. I took the first paycheck from my first job in a retail store and I put it all in. I said, I'm all in.
Wow.
And I haven't really looked back since, but that's how I started my journey. And I've been informally helping family members and friends since then. It wasn't until 2015 actually. I came back from living in Dubai for 3 years, and I read this article that talked about how Americans didn't have $500 saved for an emergency.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, that's crazy. Like, that is achievable if you put your mind to it or even make it fun. I came across this 52-week savings challenge, and it was perfectly set that it was in June at the time. And if we started the savings challenge in June, by the end of the year, you'd have 500.
Okay. Yeah.
So I challenged people on social media. I started blogging on medium.com about personal finance and using the blog to kind of educate people about the challenge and get them to sign up and get them to save. And it was an easy one too, because the 52-week challenge, you just save $1 more each week than you did the previous week. So you start out with $1, then second week $2, third week $3, until $52 is the most that you put aside. So you tell yourself, like, most people should be able to do this. And seeing that we started halfway through the year, they really only had to do half that, right? Sure. So I started that way, got a lot of people on board, and then thought to myself, you should freelance, right? Maybe this could be a way to generate income. So I use Mr. Google to
Yeah.
figure out how do you become a freelance writer. And I found my first freelance writing gig on Upwork.com. And that was it. Once I started writing for someone else, then I went to FinCon in 2018 and was inspired to launch my own blog, thepurposeofmoney.com. And that was it. The podcast came later because Danielle Desir, who you and I both know, she is
just on the show.
a rock star. She's started the WOC Podcasters Group. She was in my ear the whole time, like, you should do a podcast. You should do a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, you write well, but you talk faster. So
That sounds like me. I talk as I write as I talk. So I was like, why don't I just talk?
Exactly. And I was like, no, it's hard enough keeping up with blogs. Who wants to keep a schedule with a podcast? She said, no, you set the schedule. You set the tone. You could do the topics. You could interview people. You could make it solo. And then I just put a date on it. And I said, January 22nd. This is the launch date. And I went with it. And I recorded several episodes in December before we even got to the new year. And I had them in the vault, I call it, my episodes in the vault. And then I launched, and I decided I was going to do bi-weekly to give myself breathing room because I do have a 9-to-5 and life does happen. And I have 2 kids and a husband. So I do a bi-weekly podcast. It comes out every Wednesday. I have stuck to that schedule. I've even thrown in some bonus episodes from here and there. And now I am going to take my first break. Also, thanks to Danielle's advice.
Break is good.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it at first, but I want to take a month off, my birthday month, August to September, and regroup, refresh, take those episodes out the vault and kind of organize them in a way that will have a theme and then launch again in September.
That sounds great. So there's about 70 things I want to drill down on in what you just said. But because this isn't my regular full story format, we're going to have you on in the future to talk about the whole story.
You got it.
I have to ask you about a little bit about Dubai, though. Why were you there? And
sure.
And 3 years. Tell me
quickly
a little bit about that. Yeah.
So my day job is a U.S. diplomat, and that was one of my assignments.
Fantastic.
So I've traveled the world, and I've served my country.
Wow. That's okay. That's we've got to get you back on to talk about all that. That's the thing, right? It's like I want to do my whole I've done so many episodes where I tell your personal finance story from the beginning, and I like it so much it's hard for me to not ask you more questions about that. But I want to talk about COVID-19 and your story there. So so let's go back to the beginning. There was a time in our lives when we could walk around freely. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, no. It seems like
only vaguely
like a dream, right?
I do dream of this parallel universe where COVID-19 never happened, and all of my 2020 vacations did take place.
We are in that parallel universe. We're going to Italy next week. For 2 weeks, and with the baby for the first time, staying in the Italian Alps. And which is not happening.
I've lived there too, and you would love it. Yeah.
Okay.
I was in Italy for school though, so a year.
I'm really
school.
tempted to stop talking about COVID-19 and go back to your story.
No, we're gonna save it.
Yeah.
Make the people come back. Yes.
Right. Yeah. I want you to come back for a full episode. Right. Starting from when you were a baby to that Roth IRA when you were 16, and talking about your dad and how awesome it is to have a parent who would give you that kind of advice. From the beginning, these are the things that I sort of focus in on that I heard you say that is very unique, right? And that people could use more of. And on top of that you actually wanted to do that for some reason. That is strange.
It's true.
And not that's a unique thing to not just say whatever, Dad. I want to buy some Sour Patch Kids or something instead, right? Like it's so much likely that you would do one versus the other. So it's good to talk about those things in detail. Anyhow, I digress. So you, where were you when this all started? Were you working in? You're working in DC. That's where you are now. You're in DC.
Working in DC, and in January, in an office. And in January is when my life kind of went haywire because, to be honest, I cover Asia in my job as well.
Yep.
And we had people in China who had to come home in January. And that was a huge amount of extra work that we weren't normally doing. When you have the evacuation of American citizens anywhere, especially in the midst of a crisis, you don't always know what's ahead, but you know safety first. So we did a lot of measures to make sure we could bring our people home. And it's not just our people. I've had a couple of evacuations in my career now. I was in Haiti during the earthquake, and then covering China during the Wuhan. At that time, we were calling it the Wuhan virus.
Yeah, that's what it was called.
So we had people coming home. We had people who were just, their lives were disrupted. And you have children who need to get into some type of school. They may have left at the very last minute, so they don't have everything they need. So it was a lot of things going on. And so work went from 0 to 60. And it was, we're coming off of a holiday per se, Christmas, break, New Year's. But I actually was working. I was the one who decided to stick around for those holidays so I could take my 2020 vacations that I had planned.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So work went crazy. But we were glad that we could help, that we could evacuate American citizens who wanted to get out. We did assume at the time it was an isolated country situation until it wasn't.
Yep.
And then we learned about Italy and other places that were now dealing with what they renamed to be the COVID-19 virus.
What is your specific role in U.S. diplomacy?
So right now, I've always done different things, whether it's public outreach, recruitment, but now I'm actually the logistics person. That's the best way to describe it, and people understand. I am a liaison that helps embassies and consulates get what they need out of Washington, whether it's monetary resources, support, approval, denials, whatever type of policy needs to be translated or, implemented by the missions abroad comes from Washington, D.C. So I am the one who is giving you that policy or telling you what it is or getting the interpretation of what the policy is based on our rules and regulations so that overseas our leadership can do what's in the best interest of the U.S. government, but also in the best interest of taxpayers. So we're constantly making sure that we're within the rules so that it's beneficial to everyone involved. And in my effort, because I'm logistics, I'm the person who's helping to keep the building running. And it's the job that's not always remembered or recognized, but it's the most important. Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Actually doing the things.
Exactly. Yeah. Because without my support or my money or something, you're not able to function. So we're constantly the one you're coming to make sure you can do what you need to do.
Okay. So are you reviewing embassy budgets and things like that too?
Sometimes, yeah. Budgets, hiring numbers, positions.
Sure.
How many Americans do you have where you are? How many local hires do you have where you are? Family members. Is everyone accounted for? I mean, obviously in a situation like this, we have to account for lives. And we also have to advocate for our people, online school, going to school there, making sure that safety protocols are being upheld. Is everyone able to, if they have to go into the office, do so safely? Those are the types of things we're constantly reviewing so that no one feels unsafe,
Yeah. So your journey, your COVID-19 journey started early.
Yes.
Earlier than most.
Earlier than most people were even thinking about it. And
so you got everybody you needed to get back home, out of the Wuhan area and surrounding areas even.
Eventually most of China. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that sounds like it probably took up basically all of your time. And maybe even more. Were you working longer hours than you normally would too for that, or how did it go?
To an extent, to be transparent, I'm not the primary person who was in charge of the China portfolio, so I definitely lended a hand.
I'm sure you have a team, right?
Yeah, we have a team, but there was one person who was handling China amongst other countries, and then it became a lot to handle alone. So we as a team divided the work. Some of us flew, to other parts of the country to be able to meet and greet those coming home and helping them get settled. Wow. And then we had those who stayed in Washington to make sure that we could get the approvals for certain things we needed, because most Americans or people don't even realize when you have a crisis, whether it's natural or unexpected, there's charter flights that sometimes come in to get people home. Those are not free, nor are they waiting and sitting around, right? So you have to have someone who's facilitating contracts, discussions, finding a carrier who will do it, getting approvals to get into the airspace and land and take off. And so there's a lot of things like that. And then we also have emergency task force that are set up with people who volunteer to cover specific issues until that task force is no longer needed. So in the beginning of a crisis, it's normally 24 hours. Sometimes it's shift work to make sure the burden is spread, but other times it could be, it only gets less when the situation is getting better. So in the beginning, people are all working longer hours to contribute.
Wow. It's funny. I used to work in the music business and concerts and touring for Live Nation Global, and the parallels between what you're talking about and organizing a global concert tour is, because getting in and out of countries and organizing flights and accounting for people, all the logistics, right? I mean, there's a lot going on there. And so I can understand just a tiny bit of what you're talking about. But the urgency sounds like it's more so in your case, right? I mean, to get people from one place, because, the thing that triggered for me is often there's very little time to get from one show to another show. And so everything has to go smoothly. So you have to have the relations with the government. So you have to have all of the connections to travel things like you're talking about, all of that stuff. Exactly. So this is fascinating stuff. And again, I feel like we could do a whole show on just like your job and how it goes. But maybe that's not something you're even allowed to drill down on much more, right?
When we do the full one, I'll get my authorization to go deeper if we need to, but it's definitely like you said. In your case, at least you had a schedule, so you knew your time frame. Ours was as soon as possible.
Yes, it's when always as soon as possible.
When you have as soon as possible, it's sort of like it could be right
where
now
or where do you go
13
first,
hours
right?
from now. Exactly. And I would say this is my first situation where it's not just about getting people out. Now that they're out, now they have to quarantine and be separated from other people. And so we know for sure that they are okay. And so that was a logistical issue too, because that time we didn't realize how long people would have to learn how to be in quarantine. So 14 days was like, oh my God, that's the longest time ever. And now we're going on like 6 months or whatever it is. And people have learned what they can handle.
So you are, from the beginning, have been an essential service.
Yes.
You're an essential work. So your job has never been in peril. In fact, it is necessary.
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of how this pandemic has affected your personal finances, it hasn't really.
It hasn't affected the income coming in a negative way. So I would actually
in a positive
say,
way, maybe.
Yes. So I'll give you, I am a jack of many trades.
Sure.
My 9 to 5 is my career, but my passion is financial literacy. So in addition to the podcast and the blog, I also sell life insurance and I help people plan out their finances.
You got your license for selling? Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
So in the U.S.
I love these discovery podcasts where we're not telling your full story, because I get these little tidbits and I'm like, okay, yes, this is going to be a great future
full story. Story. And that was also inspired by my 2016-2015 year, where I said, I want to help people and have some type of credentials to do it. So I dived in. So that is something that I've been doing since 2016 when I got licensed, but this is the year where I'm like, my business has skyrocketed. And I don't know. I think it's a combination. I think some people are sitting at home thinking about their finances and their future. And they're like, I remember this speaker that I saw, Acquania Escarnet, and she said to contact her, and I should contact her, because they're sitting at home, they're available, they're pondering and reflecting on their future. I have gotten so many people to contact me again that I talked to in early 2020 or 2019 and didn't think I would hear from them. And then I have people who have just looked around and said, wait, people are dying and I don't have life insurance.
Yes.
I need to fix this. So it has become a huge thing for me right now to just fit it all in. In addition to virtual conferences are like super sexy right now. I have been doing a virtual event almost every 2 weeks, give or take, starting in February. And again, was just an opportunity that was on Facebook. Someone was looking for someone to talk about life insurance for a virtual summit that the organization had decided the week before to do. And they went from no speakers to 30 plus speakers, video recorded sessions, and promoting it on social media and getting it pretty much sold out from a virtual sold out perspective, right? Like as many people who wanted to sign up could. And I think they had over 1,000 participants over a couple of weeks of content. And that's how it started. I did that one insurance presentation, and then I just would get another one, or, hey, I saw you on so-and-so. Can you do this for me? And I would say, yeah, sure. I love to talk about this stuff. And now I am going on, I don't know, my 5th or 6th, not just podcast tour, but virtual event tour. Like, and I love it. I don't have to leave my house. I don't even have to put on shoes.
Are you going into work or are you working from home?
Both.
Okay.
So we've been splitting, rotating responsibilities because there's just stuff we can't do from home. So we rotate going into the office. So
tell me about your childcare situation.
I am very fortunate in that I have a village to raise my children.
Nice.
So my husband, me, and we have a live-in nanny who we met in Dubai. Okay. She decided that she wanted to come back with us and has been with us since 2012. So she's a part of our family. How old are your kids? 7 and 9. So did you have one or more of them in Dubai? Yes. My youngest was born in Dubai. Okay. Yeah. Wow. What a journey. Yeah. So that's so great. So you're good. And what does your husband do for work? He's a consultant, and prior to COVID-19 traveled every week. All the time. And sometimes internationally. Yep. And it was interesting how his job just shut it down. They told them on a Friday, get all your stuff and you will be locked out on Monday. And they were not playing. And they gave everyone 2 monitors and sent them on their way. That's it. So right from home, right away. Right away. You know, I wasn't so far off on that. You know, because we had orders to go, you know, on the middle of March, right? We had orders to go home here in Ontario. So yeah, I'm right next to Toronto. I'm in Hamilton, which is about 45 minutes drive. So I'm kind of in that area. But still, locally, you know, we have different rules, even, right? You know how it's by city, in your situation, city, county, state, federal. Same, right? And that's crazy too. Yeah, so, right. It was an adjustment. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it was an adjustment. My job had to figure out what their rules were going to be, and we call it the DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. They all had different rules. They all, every state / district plus county, just like you said, had a different rule, and some of them had stay-at-home orders. So they had to determine, you know, do you really need to come into the office? And I would actually be if I'm being fully transparent, my office did not have anyone who worked from home before COVID-19. It was just not happening. It wasn't a thing, right? It wasn't a thing. And people were asking and they were like, no, we think everyone needs to be here to be productive. And then they were forced to change. Yeah.
Yeah, my company as well. I mean, they didn't resist. Of course, they actually embraced it. The owners of my company, because people first, which is nice to work for a company who thinks that way right away. But it was I'm an insolvency counselor under the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act in Canada, so we're bound by those laws, and so those laws say. You can't sign someone up for a bankruptcy or a proposal, which is these are Chapter 11, Chapter 13 equivalents, or Chapter 7 or 11. Either way, Chapter 13 is like a proposal where you don't pay all of the debt doesn't go away. Some of it, you pay some of it, right? So those things you have to sign up in person. That was always the rule. You got to meet the person, right? So they had to change that for COVID. They said by video, you got to see the person by video. That was it. But in January, before all this happened, I'm the counselor, so I do 2 mandatory counseling sessions as part of when somebody files insolvency. And the rules there were, if somebody moved to a city over and they can't easily make it to your office, you can do it by video. Or if they're really sick and can't leave the house and they got to get their counseling done, video. So it was way more lax for me to do video. So to transition to all video wasn't a big deal for me, right? And I was already set up, ready to go. Having worked from home for a couple of years. So it was an easy transition for me. They actually set it all up. I feel very lucky that happened. And so your husband had that same situation, just kind of sent everybody home. Yeah. For you, you had to be forced to do that, but then you're essential for certain situations?
Yeah, or just in general, our team, there's just certain things we can't do from home. So we kind of pulled straws and said, what day do you want? And we definitely, in my defense of my agency, they got it together quickly.
Sure.
They figured out the technology and then offered classes to educate people who didn't know how to really do it. And then we had so many options. So it went from no option to a whole bunch of options.
Because you got to balance what the rules are and how what you know.
Exactly.
And we can't just change everything because it's going to take too long. And
exactly.
We have all these balls in the air. And what are we going to do, right? So that's sometimes you just need a little bit of okay, they're saying we have to do this. Okay, now we can.
Right.
And that's what happened with your situation.
Right. And it came from the top down, which helped because we have offices who were already really savvy at working from home and then others who weren't doing it at all. So now the top of the organization is saying, no, everyone needs to get on board. And then you all follow suit.
Okay, good. And so tell me how your experience is going into work now. Do you have to wear masks?
Yes.
What is the...
Yeah, so we wear masks.
Social distancing?
We observe social distancing. And, I think in general, not even just at work, but to go to my grocery store, I need to wear a mask.
Yeah.
You get a look of disgust when you forget
when
to
you forget
put
your
it
mask.
on. Yeah.
Okay.
When you forget to put on your mask, I'm sorry. Sometimes I have to run to the restroom and I'm so busy. I'm already up. I'm walking. I get up from my desk. I run and then I get to the door and I'm like, nope, you cannot go into this hallway without your mask. And I have to go back and get it.
We have to learn these new behaviors, right?
Yeah. But I don't mind. It's for the protection and safety of everyone. But at the same time, it is definitely still a habit you have to really process. I have mask in my car. I have mask in my purse. I have mask at my desk because I just don't want to be caught without one.
Yeah. It's you never know. If you're, I think about driving, right? What if I wanted to stop and just get something, right? Or even, I go for a run every couple of days, and sometimes, and this is going to sound counterproductive, but sometimes I want to get a donut on the way home, and, they have walk-up window for our donut place now, which is nice. And, maybe I want to have a contactless card with me and a mask so that I can just put it on and go up to the window. Because I don't even like to go up to a window without a mask on. That's kind of where I'm at these days. I don't like to go anywhere if I don't have to. That's my level of anxiety during this pandemic. And I realize it's more about we're being in a state of emergency right now. And I don't feel like I don't feel like it's the world that I was in before. It's all very different, right?
I think everyone's adjusting now.
Yeah. everyone has different levels of risk tolerance too.
Right. We're actually going virtual in the fall, and I'm nervous. I mean, so I did mention we have a live-in nanny, and she helps, but my 9-year-old could not do school completely on his own. It's just a matter of accountability. He's 9.
Yeah.
He would rather play Roblox
course,
and Minecraft. Yeah. So
seriously.
We had to really, that was a challenge, even though she could help in monitoring what they're working on. My 7-year-old is a special needs child and needs 100% support to do a lot of daily activities. So she was really focused on him, and my husband and I tag teamed on our 9-year-old, where we would take days, like, can you make sure he does his work today? Can you make sure on Tuesdays and Thursdays he logs into Google Meet with his teacher?
Yeah.
And then can we make sure that we turn in the work on Friday? Because they used to give us a week to do the work. But in the beginning, it was frustrating because the county was still trying to figure out how to support students. And not everyone had technology. I mean, we didn't even have a computer for him to use. So we were like, how is he supposed to do these Google Meets? We really didn't want to buy him a laptop at this age and have him be independently able to get on the internet, right? So he had an iPad.
Interesting consideration.
Exactly. Yeah. So he had an iPad and he could do certain things, but he was not, meeting people on the internet. So a lot of parents said something, and I'm so glad that my taxpayers' dollars went into Chromebooks for all the students. And then they just had to figure out who doesn't have internet. So that was a blessing. So he got a Chromebook early into COVID, and that was how he was able to log in. And the Chromebooks issued from the school are kind of limited in who they can talk to. So, the email is localized to the school teachers and the students and things like that. So I felt safer with him being on the internet and engaging with his class because it was a closed environment.
Yeah. And I just feel like a lot of this stuff might reveal like income disparity and things like that too, right? I mean, you said that sometimes it jumbles up a little bit. I think you said that the school board provided the
so
Chromebooks?
the county provided the Chromebooks, and they were giving Chromebooks to 5th graders before COVID, and then they said basically I think 2nd grade and up, everyone got one. You just had to come to the school and pick it up.
So, but then what about those who, I'm sure some students don't have internet at home.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the situation with, say, lower income?
Yeah. So I think they allow you to contact them and figure out a partnership, but I'm not sure because we do have internet, but we also do have lower income students who go to the school, and they're a part of a group where whenever there's something that can be done to accommodate them, they're contacted and their arrangement is made. Okay. But I will say in Virginia, that's a higher priority, but we had some issues in DC where, fortunately, I think organizations stepped up, like Verizon, like providers. I think internet service providers came in and they've been providing internet.
If they have a part of their company that can support,
exactly,
social outreach sort of thing, right? So there's so much nuance with this situation, right? I mean, so many things that come up that we don't think about, like, obviously a lot of these orders come from a place of privilege to start, right? They say, just set up, I was like this one, just, set up a computer, a separate computer for your kid in your spare bedroom or guest room or something. Like there's just so many layers of privilege in that statement in itself, right?
I'm glad you recognize it because there are some people who don't, and I'm constantly reminding them that this is not a given.
No.
And I even had to complain because I'm sure people were like, well, you guys, you both have incomes. You're a 2-parent household. Why doesn't your child have a laptop at 9 years old? And I was like, whoa, that is not necessarily a financial factor. It could be other reasons.
Exactly.
And in my case, they were valid because now that he does have a computer, he plays Roblox and Minecraft all the time.
That's right. Right. So, it's not always financial, but even if it was exclusively financial, that's your prerogative, too.
Exactly.
To make that decision. people live in different ways, and we've all been able to slowly over time adapt to what society is, right? And be like, okay, well, that's normal. I got to send my kids to school every day. I got to work in 9 to 5, and then they're working during that time, and I got to get someone to pick them up from school if I'm not ready at that time, et cetera, et cetera. All of the things that have been built into us over time, and this is all so new, and everything's different now, that the people in charge don't seem to really understand what it's like to have kids at all. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
To an extent, yes. And then some of it is the unknown that's scary, right? Like, we took a vote as parents on what we wanted our kids to be able to do, whether it's virtual or a hybrid system where you went to school a couple of days a week and then you were home the other days of the week. And despite the vote, because the teachers even were allowed to vote, they had a say, and a majority of them wanted to come back and teach the kids. They really, in their heart, wanted to do it. The county decided a week later to unanimously vote that we all stay home, which is fine. I want to be on the right side of history when all of this is said and done. And I don't want to be the person who like stood up and said, make my kid go in, because flu season is bad for kids in schools. Yeah. So I'm not going to like try to say I don't get it. But they did unanimously decide that we were not going to go back to school as planned. And my husband and I just have to get ready. Like, we learned a lot of lessons this past spring on what works for our son and what doesn't, what motivates him to do the work he has to do, and how we need to manage him. But it's definitely, we had days where we said, you know what, this is not worth fighting over or ruining our relationship with our child. So he's just not going to do this assignment today. We'll try again tomorrow, but the teachers,
doing the best we can, right?
We're all doing the best we can. And they are angels. I didn't become a teacher because I can teach someone how to handle their money. But most of the time, these are adults who have made a decision to commit to the process. They are ready. Yeah. A 9-year-old is never ready to do a research project.
It's a different thing. You're always trying to find ways to teach them.
Exactly.
Teachers that I know in my life are this is their mission, right?
Exactly.
It's a very special thing to be able to not only educate someone but get through to them. I think that's it, right?
That's the key.
Like what you said, they're not ready. They're not open and receptive. Some kids are great, fine. But the majority are not, and the majority is resistance.
Exactly.
Right? What's interesting is you have a relative level of privilege in your life, to dealing with one special needs and the fact that they're the ages themselves make it difficult. Mm-hmm. So I can only imagine what other parents who don't have nannies or don't have any infrastructure. Or even you're talking about planning and trying to help and making conscious decisions, and maybe they can't even think this way, right? So there's like so many different things going on, and everybody's struggling. So yeah, I guess the Democratic vote would be the only way to decide on this. And the teachers, I'm glad they got a say, because they would likely be the most at risk. Based on the age group. I hear once you get a little bit older as a child, you become more at risk. But again, as I was saying earlier on my show with on Dear Ruby, we talked about this, that all of this is just preliminary theories about COVID, right? Nobody has any long-term data yet. And I think Fauci had a couple of quotes about how we have all this information about these viruses that we know about, like decades, and we have only months about this. So how can we?
That's what I'm afraid of. We're still figuring it out.
It's all just conjecture.
Like, in the beginning, it was don't wear a mask. Then it was wear a mask. Then it's wear a mask between 6 feet. Where did 6 feet come from? We're still figuring it out, and that's what scares me, is that we don't know everything that's to come, and it impacts my side hustle, life insurance, right? I had my first client recently whose application was postponed. I didn't even know that was a category, and I've been selling life insurance for 3 years.
Why?
But let me tell you what postpone means.
Yeah.
Postpone is when a company decides they're not going to make a decision to insure this person because they are potentially high risk for COVID-19,
Oh
meaning they're over the age of 60. They have one of the situations, say diabetes, for example, that you don't want to have and get COVID-19. Therefore, they are a high risk category, and they know that if this person dies, they're going to have to pay. So they're going to wait until the pandemic is quote unquote over.
Oh my.
And they can do, have the mathematicians come out, do the numbers, figure out life expectancies based on this particular pandemic, and then decide if this person is still considered high risk or an insurable candidate. I never had anything like that before. It is all new. And then even trying to explain that to an applicant and getting them to understand what that means. It's not a denial, but it's not an approval either. It's crazy.
It's representative of our situation in general right now, right? We don't know, right? We just don't know what's going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, I guess they've been changing the underwriting rules since this started, right? Or adapting them.
They're trying in that they don't know what it means. I work with several companies, so I'm fortunate that one of my companies is still pushing through like normal. And then this is the first one, like I said, where they said, pause, we need to reevaluate this. So it's really interesting, but they're supposed to still move forward, but life insurance companies take risk. That's the whole point. They do a lot of calculations to determine,
calculated risk. That's it.
Is this worth it? And they are trying to figure it out as they go too. So it is a struggle, and I feel bad for anyone who delayed getting life insurance for whatever reason and now may find themselves in a situation where it's a little more challenging to get covered.
Yeah, wow. That's I never thought about the changing of underwriting rules when it comes to a pandemic. Of course, yeah, like they have to think about all of these things. I'm sure there's a whole team just right away for every insurance company just thinking, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? How much is this going to cost us, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. Yeah, that's a fascinating part of this. There's so like I said earlier, there's so much nuance with this, so you don't think about what affects this or that. So we should probably wrap up soon because we're getting close to the hour. But I want just talk about your podcast a little bit and the first 20 episodes now, or 21?
Yes. So I'm going to end season 1 with 22 episodes. The last 2 are coming.
Nice.
The Purpose of Money podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Outcast FM, wherever you listen. Please check it out. I focus on women building wealth stories and those who are creating more freedom in their life. My mission is to help women build generational wealth. I've decided to focus on women because a lot of them are heads of households or managing the finances for their household, and they are the ones who have the ability to really think future planning, setting money aside, investing, saving. As a financial coach and wealth strategist, I help my clients figure out how to reallocate money they already have to put towards financial goals. And so a lot of times you don't have to make more money. You just need to spend it differently. And that's what I try to help people see. And on a podcast, I'm sharing stories of some of my clients, but also people that I've met that I feel have a phenomenal story that I think other people need to hear. Most of my guests are regular women, so they are not those headliner in the newspaper big stories that you normally read about when it comes to finances. I have a few. I put a few VIPs in there, but I try to focus on women's stories that you can relate to. You could take what they did and actually implement it in your own life and start making changes today. And I tell you, this past couple of weeks, I've gotten so much positive feedback. It's really encouraged me to keep going. So after the 22nd episode, I'll take a short break and I'll come back with season 2 in September.
That's awesome. And like you said, you're doing virtual conferences. you're working your day job. You're doing tons of stuff. I'll put the links to the podcast and your website. So is it thepurposeofmoney.com?
Yes, thepurposeofmoney.com. You can follow me on Instagram at thepurposeofmoney or on Twitter at purpose_money. I'd love to hear from some of your listeners and see how we can work together or share their story. So if anyone listening thinks that their story would be a great one for my audience, let me know. Contact me at thepurposeofmoney.com on my contact page.
Perfect. And yeah, this, this time is we got to keep talking about money. It's so much more important to talk about money now than any other time. And like you said, the life insurance, everybody's coming out of the woodwork, and to empower people to take control. And I do, when you come back, which of course you will, to tell your story, I want to talk about generational wealth a lot more. It's something that if you have generational wealth, you don't think about it. If you don't, you do. I'm sure, right? Or you should.
Yes, you should. I want everyone to think about it. Even if your answer is, I want to give all my money away to organizations and not my own kids.
Fine.
If that's your prerogative, so be it. But let's try to get the money up so it could be as much as possible.
That's right. And so, like you said, it's about talking about goals and knowing your goals. Like, what is the purpose of your money? The purpose of money is a great title, because money isn't just for something that, unless you're Warren Buffett, it's just something that you make and you don't care about. He just loves to make money, that guy. He doesn't care to spend it, though, and he has really no purpose for it. That's why he's giving it all away. He's definitely a unicorn in that sense. Nobody just makes money to make money. Usually there's a reason, right? You want to be financially independent. You want to leave a legacy. You want to build generational wealth. You want to be able to buy a house or afford something or have security. There's so many reasons, but if you don't think about it, then the money's just going to go to wherever people tell you to put it. And often the banks are not the ones to listen to in that regard. And nor are the retailers or people trying to sell you. They have 8-9 year car loans now. Oh, it's just, or a boat. To me, like, you don't buy a boat unless you're like, I don't know, you got millions. That's my.
And even then, I would say, can't you just rent it? How many days? How many days a year do you actually need this boat?
Yeah, what are you going to do with this boat?
There's a lot of things, but I want to say this, I'm not here to guilt or shame anyone into what they want. I help you figure out, okay, if this is what you want, then let's create a plan to get it so we all feel accomplished at the end, because I may highly value a pair of jeans. You may highly value a boat. I'm not going to say one is better than the other, but I definitely think you should be able to afford both, right? So if you want a boat, let's pay for it. Let's not finance it, right?
Yeah. Let's figure out something that's going to, because it's fine. If you know what it means to get into an 8-year car loan and take that on, and you're fully aware, then all the power to you, right? It's just, I've never met anyone who was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. And so there are specific things, right, like that people get into that, even if we're not being judgmental, it's not what they wanted. So that's why talking about this is so important. And listening to podcasts and listening to different perspectives, and you'll hear like, oh, wow, I could do that way and not be in debt for the rest of my life.
Yes, I love it. Yes, and talking about it is important. It will open your eyes to what you're really buying. So yes, it's important.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So as usual, I will be back next week. I think I'm going to do a solo episode about debt. That's what I'm thinking about, because it's something that I talk about every day with 4 to 7 people, depending on how my schedule goes, and with counseling sessions. But it's, when you talk about people being in debt, getting out of it, getting a fresh start, you start to think about what are ways, how did we get into this in the first place? And what are ways that we could get out of it or prevent it from happening? A lot of things are not preventable, and situational things, systemic things. Sometimes you just kind of stuck with the thing that you got, which is, and we'll keep working on those things, of course, too. But if you do get into a situation where you have money and then you just don't know what to do with it, and then so you don't save it, and then when something happens, you have to go into debt. That's an unfortunate situation that can be prevented. And I want to talk about those possibilities as well. But while acknowledging that, hey, life is hard, and sometimes you have things, and that's why you end up seeing me, because the thing happened you couldn't anticipate, but then you have a fresh start, and how do we make sure that you're protected going forward? So yeah, a little solo episode about debt. I'm starting my Italy vacation, but not in Italy, next week. So I will be just hanging out and having just a nice relaxing time without having to work, and with the baby in daycare, just time to myself, which is nice because it's been a bit of a hectic time, hasn't it, for everybody? So it's even though we're not going to Italy, I accept that. It's again first world problem, very privileged problem to not get to go to Italy, but still have my job, still have my family, still have my health, and all of that. So I'm very thankful of that. And so yeah, tune in next week, and we'll talk about debt a little bit. And thanks for tuning in. Check out all of Acquania Escarnet's stuff, The Purpose of Money. What a great show today. I'm very happy about that.